Barfu is at the lab where we have this awesome new setup.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great.
Yeah. Cool.
Woohoo!
All right. Yeah, I am at the office and it's really nice. Like I chatted with some people, had lunch together. So, that's a
Nice.
change from working from home.
Absolutely. Yeah, my lunch mates are these four-footed creatures that are growling at me right now.
Fair enough.
She's back, and she's back. We just do what she says around here.
Cool.
Well, welcome, Barfu. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. And thank you to Jeffrey for walkthrough of the traits editor. And thank you and welcome to Barfu, who is on our insights team. And we're going to be talking about what is all that? What is an insights team? I'm betting this is something that you've heard of obliquely. You've heard us mention telemetry in live streams when we're talking about hey, we see players doing a certain thing, and that's one of the reasons that we be like, okay, let's adjust things. It's a little bit also of how how Vicky was saying, we watch how people actually interact with the game to make it better for them, and also to give us insights. So we're gonna get into it today and learn a little bit more. So first of all, welcome, Barfu, and tell us a little bit about your role and how you became an analyst.
Thank you. Thanks for including me in this. This is awesome. So I've been working as a game analyst on NetLabs for the past 3 years. I started during COVID, and I work in a small team, in-size team, and we basically try to help the game team, meaning the producers and the designers mostly, to make their decisions on what to work on next, and then what are the things that are going well, what are the things that we need to improve, and that kind of stuff, by providing stories from the data that we collect. So we keep track of how our game is doing, monitor our KPIs, but we also do look at deep dives of different kinds of stuff, if we want to figure out what we are going to do next. Besides listening to what our players are saying, we just try to come up with okay, this is a concern. What are the things that we can improve, and that kind of stuff using the data. How I became an analyst is interesting because I know in games, many of the people are like, oh, I've been playing games since I was 3 or something like that. I haven't been playing games since I was 3. I actually got introduced to the games really late. When I was in college. At college, I studied economics, and I was actually going to go and study macroeconomic policy even further. And at that time, this was a long time ago, we didn't have many programs or programming languages to do statistical things. So it was mainly Excel and one or other things that was just incredibly slow. So I didn't really have a bunch of technical skills that could be transferred to anything else. And then for I got married, and then I moved to Vancouver, BC, and then my husband is also in games, and that was kind of after I met him, we're playing games and spending time together and stuff like that, and I was like, oh, this is some really cool stuff. And in Vancouver, when we moved there, I was like, oh, what he's doing seems really cool. And I can just start over a little bit, and then, maybe find a job in games industry as well. So basically what I did was I went back to school and studied computer science again.
Oh wow! You had to go.
And
You had to go back to school. You're already in the data field, but then specifically to be in games.
actually, I didn't want to be in the data field at that time because I didn't know that it existed that much. At that time, games were more programming and artists and art stuff. So I basically went back to school just to be on the development side of things. My idea was okay, I'm gonna start over and this is just gonna be that. I wasn't even aware or that there was insights in like data science and stuff like that in game companies. And I don't think there was at that time, to be honest with you. So that is also something that came out with like this huge data improvement over the past 10 years or so.
Gotcha.
So when I went back there, I like one of the things that I realized at school was like, oh, okay, maybe this is something that I can combine with my other education that I already had. But I didn't get a job in games right away. So I did like some other stuff in like, telecommunication company and IBM. I did like QA job and then I moved to business intelligence. And then we moved to Seattle and then a game company. I was applying for a bunch of jobs here too. And then one of the jobs was like a game company. And then it was just like, it turned out like, yeah, sure, we'll hire you. And I was like, okay, this is great because I like games. I can combine both of my educations as an analyst. And, this is like the perfect world for me. I like doing those things. So since then I've been in games. It's been like 8 years or so. And I really enjoy it. And I really like the fact that I had the chance to apply those things that I learned in both schools to my current job.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Coconut Kid had an interesting comment. He was like, yeah, I think that's how stumbling upon data science as a job, he says, I think that's how most of us find it. Like, didn't even know that was a thing. We can do that? That's fun. So I mean, I would love to hear more about your job. What do you like about it? What is it kind of like in day to day?
Okay. So day to day is mostly like, as I mentioned, there's two things that we do follow. One of them is like the things that we keep monitoring at all times, like how is our game doing? So for that, we have dashboards. So I build dashboards or like, pull data to make sure that like everything is going okay. And then and then of course that yields a bunch of questions. Like if something is not going well, or if something is different than what it has been, we always go like, why, what is happening? Let's just go and investigate this. And the other part of the job is basically when we're designing features or when we design some features and then it went live, we want to make sure that, a lot of the people are engaging with it, players are happy with it, they're actually, are satisfied. And then we see like, they put the time in and effort into work on the stuff that we just finished. So we look at those things, and then if there's things that are like, one of the things is not working and then the other one is working or something like that, we want to investigate why that is by looking at the data to try to understand, like, is this a certain group of people? Is this like the new players, or like, players who've been like in the game for a long time? Or like, I don't know, are these the players who've done a certain things, like finished this mission and then like they were like, okay, this is not going really harmoniously with this mission or something like that. So we kind of like ask a lot of questions. So my daily job involves asking a ton of questions and brainstorming all the time with the producers within our team, with the designers and all. And we also obviously keep an eye on like, with other disciplines, particularly like, the marketing and then the customer service. So like we want to hear what people are unhappy or happy about, so that like we can actually look into the ideas and then see like if can we make anything to improve all these kind of stuff.
Right.
So we look at those things, but the main job is like building dashboards and then just like working on reports to see like deep dive into some of the areas that we think that we want to investigate further.
On my side, I've seen these come up as be like, okay, we're seeing this behavior, but we don't understand, like, and this was kind of one of the things that comes up to me is how is the on-ramp working? It's like, where are people maybe getting confused or stuck or frustrated, and then they just like quit out, and then looking at that data being like, okay, how do we make this better? What's
Exactly.
going on?
Yeah. And it's really nice because like one of the things that I really like about my job is that it is very interdisciplinary. So like we work with almost all the, disciplines within the studio because like we try to help out with the producers and designers with their decision making, but we also want to make sure that our marketing efforts are producing good results, or when we look at the customer relations, we want to make sure that we hear the whatever the happy thoughts or like the complaints and all that kind of stuff. Or if we actually like we do some UX studies where we can just like combine their data with our data and then get some more information, because like we work mostly with data, so we kind of get out numbers, but we do not get the motivations behind them. So those kind of like being interdisciplinary and being in touch with all these other disciplines really helps us put the story all together to understand why this is happening, or like what is the motivation behind this and that kind of stuff.
Right on. Yeah, I love that interdisciplinary nature. It's really fascinating. I mean, I said this before in Vicky's segment about, getting to work at Undead Labs. This is the first time I was exposed to accessibility features, and it's also true this is the first time I really heard or really thought more about telemetry and insights.
Mhm.
So, next question I have is actually like, what is telemetry? We
Yeah.
say that we say it a lot.
Mhm.
We say it in our live streams. Can you give us a definition of what that is?
Yeah. So when we say telemetry, we basically mean the data that we collect from the game and the patterns in the game. So we don't store any personal information, and we don't really, are worried about like the personal things. But we want to make sure that enough people are engaging with things, enough people are collecting the things, or like using the weapons that we just introduced, or like changing their bases and that kind of stuff. So telemetry is basically, we work closely with the engineers to tell them like these are the things that we need the data for, and they hook us with the engineering background, some report some data files that collects like every time a player kills a zombie, for example, or every time that a player changes their clothing item, or like whatever they put in their inventory after like getting loot and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Awesome.
yeah, we collect all that data, and then we just look at the patterns to see like what is going on in general. We try to identify, I don't know, like let's say like how much time does a player spend on a particular map, like versus another map or something like that. So that's what the telemetry stands for. And we are the main customers of the telemetry, because everything that we produce everything we produce comes from the data that we collect.
Right on. And it's so helpful, combining it with like the wish list and looking at the surveys mentioned, like not everyone fills out the surveys. I think Undead Cat was saying, we're always looking for feedback, and sometimes it's just passive feedback of like we can like just look at a list of player actions. Sometimes we're always asking like, hey, how does this feel? How does this play? So yeah, just getting more information to try to make a better experience.
Absolutely. Those feedbacks are always useful for us, because like they help us to put the stories together in a much more meaningful way.
I like the story of the player. That's what we're
Yeah.
always talking about. So besides data,
Uh-huh.
what else does your role entail?
So I touched in multiple areas before, but to summarize, like as we said, we collect the data, and then we use querying languages to get that data out in an aggregated fashion, because like data itself is just like sitting down there, but we need to kind of like organize it and clean it, and then make it in a usable format. Most of the time we work with our data engineer, who like creates like tables and stuff like that for us, so that we as the analysts kind of easily consume that data. And then once that is set, There's again like two routes. We sometimes build dashboards out of it, or ad hoc analysis. So most of these things we kind of discuss with our main stakeholders, who could be anyone in the studio, really. I don't know, like for example, audio team can come and ask us, like, we're gonna set some like default settings for like whatever audio thing that they're doing, and they want to know like what is the most common setting that our players are using. So like we would just do that because that would be the optimal thing to do.
Right.
So we just look at that kind of stuff and then like inform that like the audio team to do so. And we also do lots of like statistical analysis, like mostly explanatory analysis, and then can also go into like deep dive in like I don't know, more advanced like regression models or clustering and that kind of stuff to identify and understand our audience. We mostly try to evaluate our game health like after every release. So we, make a report of like what are the things that went well, what are the things that we need to improve for the next one, how did we do with our KPIs. So that is something that we constantly do. And also, one thing that I didn't mention before the telemetry is we also own how we design the telemetry, because because we're the main consumers of the data. We decide what are the things that we wanna collect in terms of data, and that decision is based on like we sitting down and brainstorming of like what do we think is a health metric for us, or do we have a benchmark value that we're going to compare this thing to the upcoming future or something like that. So we set goals and targets for ourselves, and then according to those we come up with questions, and according to those questions we define what are the data that we need to collect in order to be able to answer that question.
Right.
So that's most of the things that we do in our besides the telemetry stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for that overview. I think it's a really fascinating field. Yeah, I mean, I'm an information junkie. Going down rabbit holes of of information is something that's fun for me, and this kind of has that same feeling to just kind of just unlock new levels. And we have some kind of we have some fun data points to share. We're going to kind of gamify this a little bit. Barfu provided all this data that we're going to share out, but what we're going to do first is give you guys the chance to guess, see how close you get to the correct answer. Okay, so we ready for some fun data points and some questions? Okay, here we go. The answer is 42. Always 42.
This one is not 42. Let me give you a hint.
42. Yeah. Okay, so the first question is, how many hours have all the players played since the Juggernaut launch in March 2020? How many hours total has been played since Juggernaut launched in March 2020? What do you guys think? Drop your guesses. At least 42 is probably correct. Lots of hours, I would agree. 2.1 billion. I'll say it's less than that.
I think we divided the hours into days, to be honest with you, because that was so many hours.
So, oh yes, yeah, you're right. Okay, so I have the hours, but the answer is in days. Oh my gosh. So in a day, how does that really translate from hours to days? Just the game days, right?
Yeah, just divided by 24.
Divided by 24. Okay, so you can. The answer is in days. Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. So your guesstimate on total gameplay time in days played since March. You want to give me the answer?
Do you want to give the answer? Because that one, I actually can't see it from my screen.
No, I have it right in front of me. It's actually 7.8 million days.
Yeah, that's a lot of days.
That's a lot of days.
That's a lot of days.
It is many days. Okay, here's another one. How many zombies have been killed since the beginning of this year? So, again, if we went all the way back to 2020 or even 2018, it'd be too ridiculous. But how many zombies? And Burfu, is this just vanilla zombies, or does it include freaks as well? Do you remember?
It includes all kinds of zombies.
Okay, all zombie types since January of this year, since the beginning of the year. How many? 10 million. It's more than that. 256. It's more than that. 625. It's more than that.
Yeah.
The answer is 805 million.
Yes.
That's a lot. You would think.
That's a lot of zombies. Yeah.
I think the zombie apocalypse was probably over at that point. If you killed 805 million. That's amazing. Well done, clearing out all those towns. Okay. If we shorten up the time frame, and then I've got this one, it's just plague hearts, bloaters, screamers, jugs. So just a few freak types, and only in the last week. Now you kind of know like all zombies, from the beginning of the year. But in the last week, plague hearts, bloaters, screamers, and jugs. How many killed in the last week? I've got numbers for each one. So plague hearts. 100,000 Isby, really close. For plague hearts,
yeah, it is close.
159,000 for plague hearts. Okay, how about for bloaters? And then we have a guess how many bloaters were killed in the game last week. 800. 800 is very close. Sure, it's 830,000. We're getting into this one is a little bit high. I think I can tell you it's the highest number of the group, and it's screamers. How many screamers were killed in the last week? 1.2 is close. Tomorrow it's 1.3.
1.3 million.
Oof. And lastly, juggernauts. How many juggernauts in the last week? Just 8. Across all games. It's been a tough week. 2. It's 178,000. 178,000. So
killing juggernauts was not the priority, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Yeah, and I wonder if that's with the changes to the update, if people are like really taking out those screamers because they're waking up plague hearts and sieges and things.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking too.
Okay, so we have some questions about the weapons. What weapons were used the most in the last month? Number one weapon. Who can guess the number one weapon that was used mostly in the last month? This is in order of use. I'm really surprised by this first answer. This is not going to be what you think. It's not what I think. Car door, it would be accurate. It is the bat. Yes.
Yeah.
The wooden bat.
But I'm trying to see the chat, and then there are some other ones that has been mentioned in the lower, like in the top 10.
Yeah, the other top 10 machete that was in there. That's number 2. Number 3 is a rusty screwdriver.
Yeah.
What are y'all doing out there with the rusty screwdriver? So funny. Number 4 is chef's knife. 5 is a pistol. This first pistol to make it onto the list. First ranged weapon, rather, is PPK.
That was my first guess, actually. Like, I would have assumed that one would be the highest, yeah.
I'm going to grab the list right here, and I'm going to copy and paste it in because I think this is so interesting. And then we'll jump on to the next one.
Okay.
Coalición's favorite ranged weapon, favorite handgun. So what do you guys think are the most popular vehicles to drive around?
Yeah.
And then these are with the names of how they show up in the game. So I don't know if they are always the same name. I mean, Norma's are the coolest, but Norma does not make the list. What's tricky about this one is I don't know how they transfer exactly to the names. Cargo Cult. So I'm gonna do the same thing again. I'm gonna copy it and drop them in. And the first one kind of makes sense because it's the first kind of vehicle that players touch, right? It's the sedan, a basic sedan. That's number 1. And then we got number 2 is the truck. Number 3 is the red Talon SUV. yeah, a lot of preference for red talent items, old sedan, and then that cargo life. Wow.
Yeah, one of the fun things were like we released some hats. I can't remember which update it was, but like you know, I think we released like 5 hats or something like that, and a red talent hat was the favorite hat of among those things that people actually like put on. Yeah, definitely true. Red talent stuff is very attractive.
Yeah, absolutely. How do I get the red talent SUV? That's a question for your heroes and leaders. We'll just tell you that it's popular. So which map do players spend the most time? What's the most popular map? This one also surprised me when we were talking about it this week.
So yeah, there's a little bit of tweak here. So I want to see some of the answers and then see how it goes.
Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah. So yeah, I see a lot of Trumbull Valleys and Providence Ridge. So Trumbull Valley and Providence Ridge are the most popular ones. But Trumbull Valley is actually, if you kind of like divide the time spent on it by the number of people that kind of been on the map, it is since we launched actually Trumbull Valley, it has been the highest since then in terms of like the average gameplay time on a given map. But Providence Ridge, because it has more people, because you know, right after the tutorial they had to go, yeah, it does have longer time if we wanted to actually like sum it all up, because it has, I think, like maybe 3 times more people or something like that who are like visiting the map. But Trumbull Valley has been so popular and like, you know, hasn't gone down since we released the, you know, I think last September timeframe. So
late end of summer last year. That's really cool. I did not guess Trumbull Valley is where players spend, you know, on average the majority of their time, but I think that's really, really neat. It's just like the nostalgia is there, and it's such a great map.
Yeah, and then there's like some cool missions there as well. So it would be really, really nice to finish them off.
And we have the last question, which actually pertains to the Trumbull Valley map. Last one. How many players have tried the Trumbull Valley map so far? So not how much time they've spent there, but how many have jumped into that map? Have a guess. I can tell you this one. This is just a little context because we talked about how Providence Ridge is, you know, for the length of it, because it's been out so long, it's more popular, but it's not the average most popular. So we have 4.35 million players spend time on Providence Ridge. So how many people have tried Trumbull Valley map? Millions is not too high, but it's low millions. 1.2 is close.
1.6 is close.
Closer, Lannon. It's 1.8 million. 1.8 million people have tried the Trumbull Valley map. And what do we look at that? That's when we look when they move a community to Trumbull Valley. That's that's how we count it. Yeah, 1.8. Awesome. Well, that was our fun facts from Burfu that she pulled. I thought that was so neat. Get to see and it might surprise you. Some of them surprised me about what's popular and where people are playing. And we have a little trivia question for you as well, of course, to kind of round this out. And this should not be hard if you guys are paying attention at the beginning. Because this isn't always a super well-known field within games. Your question is, and once again, drop your correct answer in chat, and we'll randomly pick one from the random picker for the first 10 or so correct answers. And the question is, what is Burfu's role called on the team? What is the name of her role? Telemetry is what she works in, but what's the name of her role? We kind of talked about it earlier. Her role is awesome.
Awesome. Thank you. I like these answers.
Hard agree. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Megan and Rohan will be picking a winner from the random picker from the correct answers and getting in touch. And that is time for us. Barfu, thank you so much. Everyone,
Thank
please
you.
tell Barfu thank you for sharing some of this really cool data and answering these questions to answering the questions in the game, to kind of, that's one way we find out, what's working for you guys, what you guys like. What's not working, and constantly making the game better. The insights team is super valuable, and this is one of the first times we've really gotten to share more with you all about what they do and how important they are. So thank you, Barfu.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye.